Mitigating circumstances, Article 13 of the RPC, Part 3. 3. Incomplete justifying circumstance of performance of duty. As has been discussed under Article 11, there are two requisites that must be present in order that the circumstance in Article 11, number 5, may be taken as a justifying one, namely, a. That the accused acted in the performance of a duty or in the lawful exercise of a right or office, and b. That the injury caused or offense committed be the necessary consequence of the due performance of such duty or the lawful exercise of such right or office. In the case of People v. Oanis, supra, where only one of the requisites of circumstance number 5 of Article 11 was present, Article 69 was applied. The Supreme Court said, as the deceased was killed while asleep, the crime committed is murder with the qualifying circumstance alevosía. There is, however, a mitigating circumstance of weight consisting in the incomplete justifying circumstance defined in Article 11, number 5, of the Revised Penal Code. According to such legal provision, a person incurs no criminal liability when he acts in the fulfillment of a duty or in the lawful exercise of a right or office. There are two requisites in order that the circumstance may be taken as a justifying one. A. That the accused acted in the performance of a duty or in the lawful exercise of a right or office, and b. That the injury caused or offense committed be the necessary consequence of the due performance of such duty or the lawful exercise of such right or office. In the instant case, only the first requisite is present. Appellants have acted in the performance of a duty. The second requisite is wanting, for the crime committed by them is not the necessary consequence of a due performance of their duty. Their duty was to arrest Baligdas, or to get him dead or alive if resistance is offered by him and they are overpowered. But through impatience or over-anxiety or in their desire to take no chances, they have exceeded in the fulfillment of such duty by killing the person whom they believed to be Baligdas without any resistance from him and without making any previous inquiry as to his identity. According to Article 69 of the Revised Penal Code, the penalty lower by 1 or 2 degrees than that prescribed by law shall, in such case, be imposed. For all the foregoing, the judgment is modified and appellants are hereby declared guilty of murder with the mitigating circumstance above mentioned, and accordingly sentenced to an indeterminate penalty of from 5 years of prison correctional to 15 years of reclusion temporal, with the accessories of the law, and to pay the heirs of the deceased Serapiotxon, jointly and severally, an indemnity of P2,000, with costs. Since the Supreme Court considered one of the two requisites as constituting the majority, it seems that there is no ordinary mitigating circumstance under Article 13, par. 1. When the justifying or exempting circumstance has two requisites only. 4. Incomplete justifying circumstance of obedience to an order. Rolda fired at Pylons, following the order of Sergeant Benting, Rolda superior. It appears that on their way to the camp, Rolda learned that Pylons had killed not only a barrio lieutenant but also a member of the military police. And this may have aroused in Rolda a feeling of resentment that may have impelled him to readily and without questioning follow the order of Sergeant Benting. To this may be added the fact of his being a subordinate of Sergeant Benting who gave the order. and while out on patrol when the soldiers were supposed to be under the immediate command and control of the patrol leader, Sergeant Benting. People versus Bernal, et al. When all the requisites necessary to exempt from criminal liability are not attendant. 1. Incomplete exempting circumstance of minority over 9 and under 15 years of age. To be exempt from criminal liability under paragraph 3 of Article 12, 2 conditions must be present. A. That the offender is over 9 and under 15 years old, and B. That he does not act with discernment. Therefore, if the minor over 9 and under 15 years of age acted with discernment, he is entitled only to a mitigating circumstance. Because not all the requisites necessary to exempt from criminal liability are present. The case of such minor is specifically covered by Article 68. 2. Incomplete exempting circumstance of accident. Under paragraph 4 of Article 12, there are 4 requisites that must be present in order to exempt one from criminal liability, namely: A person is performing a lawful act. B. With due care. C. He causes an injury to another by mere accident, and D. Without fault or intention of causing it. If the second requisite and the first part of the fourth requisite are absent, the case will fall under Article 365, which punishes a felony by negligence or imprudence. In effect, there is a mitigating circumstance, because the penalty is lower than that provided for intentional felony. If the first requisite and the second part of the fourth requisite are absent, because the person committed an unlawful act and had the intention of causing the injury, it will be an intentional felony. The second and third requisites will not be present either. In this case, there is not even a mitigating circumstance. 3. Incomplete exempting circumstance of uncontrollable fear. Under paragraph 6 of Article 12, uncontrollable fear is an exempting circumstance if the following requisites are present. A. That the threat which caused the fear was of an evil greater than, or at least equal to, that which he was required to commit. B. That it promised an evil of such gravity and imminence that an ordinary person would have succumbed to it, uncontrollable. If only one of these requisites is present, there is only a mitigating circumstance. Illustration: People versus Magpante. Facts. In the night of May 8, 1947, Felix and Pedro took turns to guard, so that when one was asleep the other was awake. At about 9 o'clock, when Pedro was asleep, the silhouette of a man passed in front of their house without any light. The night was dark and it was drizzling. The coconut trees and the bushes on the sides of the road increased the darkness. When Felix saw the silhouette, he asked it who it was, but it walked hurriedly, which made Felix suspicious, as it might be a scouting guard of the Dillim gang. Felix fired into the air, yet the figure continued its way. When Pedro heard the shot, he suddenly grabbed the rifle at his side and fired at the figure on the road, causing the death of the man. This man was afterward found to be Pedro Pinion, who was returning home unarmed after fishing in a river. The accused voluntarily surrendered to the barrio lieutenant and then to the chief of police. Held. The accused acted under the influence of the fear of being attacked. Having already in his mind the idea that they might be raided at any moment by the Dillim gang and suddenly awakened by the shot